My neighbor, Arthur, is a sprightly 78-year-old who prides himself on his daily walks and tending to his prize-winning roses. Last year, during a routine checkup, his doctor suggested a series of tests just to be on the safe side. Arthur, wanting to stay healthy for his grandchildren, agreed without a second thought. What followed was a whirlwind of scans and appointments that left him more anxious than ever. A small, harmless spot on his brain scan led to weeks of worry, and a bone density test resulted in a prescription for a powerful drug with uncomfortable side effects. Arthur's story isn't unique. In our quest to live longer, healthier lives, we often believe that more testing is always better. But for those over 70, this isn't always the case. The truth is, modern medicine can sometimes be a double-edged sword, especially for older adults. While many tests are life-saving, others can lead down a rabbit hole of what we call a cascade of care. This is where one test, often unnecessary, reveals an insignificant finding. This finding in turn triggers more tests, some of which are invasive, expensive, and carry their own risks. This cascade can cause immense stress and lead to treatments that offer little benefit but pose a significant threat of harm. Astonishingly, new studies suggest that up to 37% of medical tests performed on seniors may lead to unnecessary treatments, complications, or side effects that diminish their quality of life. This doesn't mean we should avoid doctors or ignore our health. On the contrary, it means we need to become more informed partners in our own healthcare. It's about understanding that as our bodies age, they change. What is considered normal for a 40-year-old is very different from what is normal for an 80-year-old. Many findings that would be alarming in a younger person are simply part of the natural aging process. The key is to learn which tests are truly beneficial and which ones might open a Pandora's box of problems. It's about shifting our focus from finding every tiny abnormality to preserving our overall well-being and happiness. In this essay, we will explore 5 common medical checkups that people over 70 should approach with caution. We will look at the bone density scan, the brain MRI for memory loss, the cardiac stress test, the routine colonoscopy, and the full-body CT scan. For each one, we will discuss why it might not be the best choice and explore safer, simpler alternatives. The goal is not to create fear, but to empower you with knowledge. By understanding the potential downsides of over-testing, you can have more meaningful conversations with your doctor and make choices that truly support a long, vibrant, and healthy life. Let's begin with the bone density scan, often called a DEXA scan. Its purpose is to measure bone strength and check for osteoporosis, a condition that makes bones brittle. While this sounds like a sensible idea, the reality for people over 70 is more complex. As we age, it is completely natural for our bones to lose some density. A scan will almost certainly show this, leading to a diagnosis of osteopenia, which basically means your bones are less dense than a younger person's. This label can create significant fear and often leads to prescriptions for powerful drugs known as bisphosphonates, which can have severe side effects. The risks associated with these drugs are not trivial. They can cause digestive problems, esophageal irritation, and in rare but serious cases, necrosis of the jaw, a condition where the jawbone actually dies. A study in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society highlighted this issue. It found that over a 5-year period, these medications reduced the risk of fractures by a mere 0.3% in women over 70. Many of the participants, however, suffered from the drug's side effects. For those without a history of fractures, a better alternative often involves lifestyle changes like strength training, balance exercises, and ensuring you get enough calcium from foods like sardines and leafy greens, not just pills. Next, we have the brain MRI for mild memory loss. It's natural to worry when you start forgetting names or where you left your keys. A brain scan seems like a logical step to find a cause. However, for most older adults with mild age-related memory complaints, an MRI often does more harm than good. Scans of people over 70 almost always show age-related changes, such as slight brain shrinkage or small white matter spots. These findings are common and rarely point to a treatable cause, but they can trigger a great deal of anxiety and lead to a cascade of more invasive and often needless follow-up tests. The statistics are quite revealing. A 2021 study in Neurology Today looked at over 3,000 brain scans of people aged 70 to 85 with mild memory issues. It found that while 86% of the scans showed some kind of abnormality, only a tiny 3% were linked to a condition that could actually be treated. This means the vast majority of patients were left to worry about non-actionable findings. A much better and less stressful starting point for mild memory concerns is a simple cognitive screening test, which can be done with pen and paper in a doctor's office. An MRI should be reserved for more serious symptoms, like sudden personality changes or a rapid decline in daily function. The cardiac stress test is another common checkup that warrants a second look for many seniors. This test monitors your heart while you exercise on a treadmill, or it uses medication to simulate the effects of exercise. The goal is to see if there are any blocked arteries that could lead to a heart attack. However, for older adults who don't have active symptoms of heart disease, like chest pain during exertion, this test has a notoriously high rate of false positives. As many as 40% of tests can incorrectly suggest a problem, leading to unnecessary anxiety and risky follow-up procedures like angiograms and stent placements. The danger lies in the follow-up. An angiogram involves inserting a catheter into an artery and injecting dye, which carries risks of bleeding and kidney damage. If a blockage is found, a stent might be placed. Yet, a large 2017 study in JAMA Cardiology found that over half of the stents placed after referrals from stress tests were in patients who gained no benefit in terms of symptoms or survival. Instead of jumping to a stress test, a simpler resting EKG or a discussion with your doctor about your personal risk factors is a much safer first step. If further investigation is needed, a coronary calcium scan, which uses a low dose of radiation, can be a more reliable option. Similarly, the colonoscopy, long hailed as the gold standard for colon cancer screening, becomes a riskier proposition with age. The procedure involves examining the entire colon with a camera, but it's not without its dangers for older individuals. The preparation process alone, which requires drinking a large volume of laxatives, can cause severe dehydration and electrolyte imbalances, putting a strain on the kidneys. The sedation used during the procedure carries risks for brain function, and the procedure itself has a small but significant risk of causing a tear in the colon wall, a life-threatening complication. Because of these escalating risks, the US Preventive Services Task Force now recommends that most people can stop routine colonoscopy screening between the ages of 75 and 85. A study of 1.3 million Medicare patients revealed a stark risk-to-benefit ratio. For every 1,000 people over 75 who had a colonoscopy, only about 2 lives were saved from cancer, while over 20 people suffered serious complications. For older adults in good health with an average risk profile, a much safer and less invasive alternative is a stool-based test, like the fecal immunochemical test, which can be done easily at home without any prep or sedation. Perhaps the most questionable checkup of all is the annual full-body CT scan. These are often marketed directly to consumers with the promise of catching cancer early, painting a picture of proactive health management. In reality, for a healthy person without any symptoms, this practice is not supported by major medical organizations. There is zero evidence that these scans save lives in the general older population. Instead, they expose the body to a significant dose of radiation. A single full-body CT scan can deliver the same amount of radiation as approximately 500 standard chest X-rays, a dose that is not insignificant. The primary danger of these scans is not just the radiation, but the high likelihood of finding incidentalomas. Harmless, incidental findings like small nodules on the lungs or cysts on the kidneys. These discoveries almost always trigger a stressful and potentially harmful cascade of follow-up tests, including biopsies and even surgeries, to investigate something that was never a threat in the first place. Some modeling studies have even suggested that the rise in CT scans could be linked to up to 5% of all cancer cases in the US due to radiation exposure. The American College of Radiology strongly advises against these scans for general screening, recommending targeted imaging only when specific symptoms demand it. As we navigate our later years, the path to good health is not paved with endless tests and scans. It is built on a foundation of sensible lifestyle choices and thoughtful, evidence-based medical care. The best approach is to cultivate a strong, open relationship with a doctor you trust. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Before agreeing to any test, ask, how will the results of this test change my treatment? Or, what are the risks of this test, and do the potential benefits outweigh them for someone my age? This is not about being difficult. It's about being an engaged participant in your own health journey. Ultimately, Living well after 70 is about more than just numbers on a lab report. It's about enjoying your family, pursuing your hobbies, and feeling good day to day. It's about focusing on what has been proven to work: a balanced diet, regular physical activity, staying socially connected, and getting enough sleep. By being cautious about over-testing and embracing a holistic view of well-being, you can avoid the anxiety and risks of unnecessary medical procedures. You can then focus your energy not on worrying about harmless blips on a scan, but on living your life to the fullest. Share this with your family and friends. Thank you for watching, and stay healthy.